Welcome to Elmhurst Now. I'm Ken Bartels, your host, and tonight we're thinking and talking spring. And to do that, I have three guests from the Elmhurst Garden Club. And ladies, welcome to Elmhurst Now, Georgia Dolan, Penny O'Neill, and Mary Corello. And the Elmhurst Garden Club has to do with color in my world, color and greenery and warm temperatures and all things we look forward to for an entire year and then experience them. But tonight we want to share with our audience on Elmhurst Now a little bit more about the Elmhurst Garden Club. And we'll start out with how did it get started and what's its mission? Excuse me.
Okay. Well, it started out in 1926. So this year we are 90 years old. And you'll hear more about that later, as we get into what we do. But we've been celebrating all year for our 90th birthday. We started out as a committee from the Elmhurst Women's Club, and they had a garden club committee. The garden club committee got too big to be a committee, and they broke away and became the garden club as we know it now. So that is from 1926, and still going. Yeah.
Well, Elmhurst is loaded with historically significant aged organizations, but 90 years is a long time. It's a long time to do anything. So the mission and objectives of the Garden Club, what is it about the Garden Club that has caused it to be unique and 90 years old? Any of you?
One of the things I think is that we've changed.
Okay.
So it has grown and changed over the years. It's many years ago, it was more about flower arranging and particularly flowers. I think now we're a lot more into ecology, conservation. Of course, gardening. But I think we have changed with the times also.
Landscaping opportunities,
Yes.
not just green, but hardscapes, water retention. Things like that have become a great focus with many of the programs that we've been offering lately. And as you said, I think originally, although I wasn't there, flower arranging was probably the sign of the times, what people did at that time.
Yeah.
But the club grew with the war years, the Depression years, the war years, the 50s, the 60s, in the 60s when a lot of conservation issues were really rising to the surface, and in the 90s, and that's when it shifted, the club shifted from flower shows to other types of activities, including the garden walk and fair.
Yeah. Now, going all the way back to the 20s and the inception, would it have been vegetables and actually what you grow in your backyard to augment the family table, particularly during the war years that you just mentioned? Would that have been at least a sidebar focus, or was that never a part of the garden club?
I would think that at that time, when people were conserving and being much more frugal, that vegetables and growing your own things was very popular. Mm-hmm. Now, whether the garden club initiated things like that or not, I'm sure they supported them, and because it was growing things. And this was certainly something that women could get more involved with, and the garden club could easily help out with. Yeah,
because we're talking 26. We're talking pre-Depression, and I'm thinking Victory Gardens and all those kinds of things. But at the same time, the whole notion of making our world nicer as it relates to using ecology and using plants, ornamentals, that was also huge in that era, going back to the origination of Wilder Park and the formal gardens and all of the things that we know existed there and exist again today to some extent.
Well, in some of our yearbooks from before, we have some pictures, and of course, even in those days, so ladies still garden in dresses. So I think the meetings were kind of white gloves and hats.
They don't now. No.
No dresses anymore. Yeah, I think there was a lot of white gloves and hats for the meeting part, and like I said, ladies still gardened in dresses in those days. So I think it was a little not quite as gritty, maybe not as hands in the dirt as it is now. I think.
And they were more tea parties. I mean,
Yeah.
yes. I mean, going back to some of the history, like Georgia said, they dressed up a little bit more. I mean, not that we don't dress up, but I mean, it was more formal, and the gloves and the hats, but that was the era at that particular time.
And in the 20s, women now have the right to vote. It was the women's vote that got DuPage County Forest Preserve. It was that vote,
Sure.
being allowed to vote in that brought it over, and you have your DuPage County Forest Preserve District. And women had a little more free time because of appliances that were starting to come into vogue. But I think they were vegetable gardening in the 20s, but there was also a lot of flower gardening. They were starting to do foundations around the houses and maybe having a little patch in the back.
Well, 90 years of a mission of green and beauty, and as you said, the elements of architecture. It's a lot of change that has to go on in 90 years. And how large has the organization been? How large is it now? Would be a question.
I think it was probably, well, at one point they had 200 members. I would consider that kind of hard to handle now. Right now we have between 100 and 120 during the year of members. Now the good thing is that a lot of our members are active. And so I mean, not everybody does everything, but almost all of our members participate, to some extent. So it's a pretty active organization, and like I said, we have between 100 and 120 now.
And there's so many committees
Yeah.
that are involved with the club, and people kind of pick whatever interests them. Our herb garden, our garden therapy, all right, those kinds of things. The garden therapy, if I could talk about that, is we have members who go to the nursing homes and basically build a little container out of
floral arrangement,
a little arrangement and so forth for the therapy of it. And these ladies have been continuing this. I don't even know how long. That's what you said. It was one of the oldest organizations within the club.
It's probably 50, 60 years
Yes.
that garden therapy is.
But amazing to go into some of the homes, again, senior homes, and help these people just put their hands in the dirt and put things together.
Well, and
refreshments.
and as a society, we've learned so much about
Exactly.
therapeutic value,
Right.
not only of gardening, but painting and a number of other activities,
Which is
and
good
how
for the brain and everything.
good for the brain, and focuses
Right.
energy and thought on things other than perhaps what you might otherwise think about and be focused on.
On the other end of the spectrum, we have York High School, which is, ladies can tell you a little bit what we do
Yeah,
there.
I want to talk about projects in just a minute, but I did have a question as I looked at all of the various projects that you've been very active with lately. A question came to mind. Do you seek projects, or do projects seek you?
I'd say both.
Yeah, both. Like I said, so many of our women are really active, and lots of times we'll have someone in our club saying, "Yeah, I think this is interesting. I'd like to do it," and 5 people say, "Oh, I'll help you." So it's a really good organization in that people are willing to get involved and they're willing to do stuff. So a lot of it starts out with just an idea, and then 4 or 5 people are interested in it, and it kind of grows from there. Now, like the York High School project, Mr. Bendelow came to us and said, could we give him a little direction and a little gardening, and that one took off, and
Well,
You
let's
can
talk
ask us
about
when
that
ready
one
for
as
that.
long as
Okay.
you've both brought it up. How did that get started? So, Mr. Bendelow's a English professor.
he's an English
at
teacher.
York High School.
Yes.
So he came to you with an idea. Or his
Yes.
students came to him with the idea? How did that happen?
I think he came with the idea first, because I think deep down inside he's a gardener as well as an English teacher. So
Those go together.
they do, they go together, you know. And so he came to us and said, you know, they would like to start a garden club at York and wanted to know if we could give them some, you know, some of our members to kind of help them out with the gardening, give them some direction, you know, that sort of thing. So we said yes, and 3 of our members really jumped in big. Norma Farrell, Jan Foster, and Lisa Peterson. And Norma Farrell is just like a farmer. I mean, she knows everything about gardening. And then we had Lisa Peterson, who will tell you about our garden walk later, but one of the things we do with our garden walk is we raise funds and we give out scholarships. Lisa was one of our scholarship winners, and when she graduated, she joined our club, so she's a landscape designer. And then Jan Foster, who writes grants. And so they kind of adopted York High School, and they have really helped them move that along. So they started out with just some little plots in the back, you know, where the pool is. They have some gardening back there. And then Lisa said, you know, was walking through the hall and she saw that courtyard, you know, through the middle where the 2 buildings, you know, connect.
Right.
And she says, you know, you could really do something with this. And so she put together a plan, and that's where it took off from there. Then Jan wrote for a grant to get some money to do it, and in the process, it didn't qualify for the grant, but the group that we wrote for the grant from, they were connected them with this company in Addison called PT Holdings. Yes, and they take on a project every year, usually something to do with kids or schools or something, you know, and they give it a whole day. Most of their employees come and give you work. They really donated a lot of the resources for
the manpower,
well,
for sure.
and dollars.
And dollars, yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then so garden club them, and we had a lot of community. Oh, I'm sorry, we had a lot of community help on that. It was a whole day. Whole Foods provided lunch for everybody. You know, it was in one day they transformed.
So what was the outcome? I mean, what physically what happened? What was what's there now?
So
I guess
what was there before was a couple broken down tables and benches, and it was all pea gravel. Okay, and now it is. They have edge gardens along the whole edge, which are a sensory garden. So when you're out there, as you walk along, some things smell like licorice, another plant smells like orange. So it's kind of a nice sensory, thing out there. And then the other side of the yard, they cleaned up and they took out bushes. They planted new ones that actually have a shape and spruced that up. And then they got rid of a lot of pea gravel. There's still some there. But then in the middle of it are planters. They dug out and they put planters in there, which have flowers in it. And then they built a 3-tiered raised planter, which can be used all the way until it gets very cold, because it's a, what do they call that? A cold.
It's cold frame.
A cold frame. So it actually has lids on it, so that when it gets when there's frost, you will still have a little warmth in there. So they can grow things all the way until probably the end of November in that.
So who maintains this now at York High School? Students?
The students.
The students.
Their garden
Yes.
club.
They're the York Garden Club.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And this is the vegetable garden you're talking
It's a
about?
vegetable
Yeah,
garden.
which they a business in town actually takes some of the vegetables and uses it.
Yeah.
For their Cafe Amano,
Yeah.
for their sauces and stuff. I think they use the tomatoes and food pantries.
Yeah.
And then there's the courtyard.
The cold frame is in the layered cold frame is in the courtyard.
Okay.
Then they also have other cold frames over behind the school, on that north side.
Right.
So and then they just spruced up everything then too. So York High School just looked so much better. I mean, the whole grounds looked beautiful after it was done. Yeah.
Handicapped accessible.
Yeah.
Which benefits a lot of students and adults. It's
And it's getting the students involved in the entire project, and the community support. We asked for volunteers to help us with the garden club and other, and as Georgia said, in one day, it was a total transformation.
Well, we're talking about environment again.
Yes.
We're
Yeah.
talking about a learning environment that now has been changed once again to enhance other elements of the overall experience that students have at York High School. And I mean, you don't have to be the one that pulls the weeds. You don't have to be the one that
We do a few of those
does
too.
the watering. Yeah, well, I suspect so. But
Yeah.
well, there was
And sometimes you just can't help yourself. Yeah.
there were also benches that were being constructed on site that day.
okay,
There was a lot that happened in maybe
One day.
10, 12
Yeah.
hours.
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Well, it's projects like that can be a world of fun.
And then along with all the vegetable gardens, they also planted a butterfly garden on the where the bicycle racks are. So it's going to attract butterflies this year too.
Well, I know I know there are what I'll describe as butterfly gardens, ornamental gardens, what have you. There's one at Hawthorne. There's one by Churchville. There are plots at a number of the schools in town. I'm aware of those. Now, you mentioned when we were getting ready for the program, you mentioned specific the York High School project, but the Ray Graham project was also mentioned, and I wanted to know a little bit more about that as well. So,
Okay. I'll tell you about that one too. One of our members came to us about that. She's associated with Ray Graham, and in fact, she's on their board. And so she said, would the garden club be willing to partner with Ray Graham and do a little work on their garden? Well, that was a stretch, and they needed a lot of help. The thing with Ray Graham is that, their clients mostly are inside, and so they live many of them live in a group home. They get in a bus, they come to Ray Graham, they spend the day, they go home, and some of them just never really go outside and enjoy a garden. So our plan, which we're doing in phases because actually it's kind of ambitious, is to have a place where they will be it'll be ADA wheelchair accessible too, so that they can go outside and, whether with one of the instructors or maybe as a class, and enjoy the outdoors. So there'll be raised garden beds so that, they don't have to bend down, or if they're in a wheelchair, there'll be raised garden beds. There'll be we're getting them a barbecue pit so that they can have a little cookout sometimes. We cleaned out the greenhouse, which was, they had this greenhouse given to them, and they had a teacher at one time who was interested in it, and then when she got transferred, it kind of turned into a storage room, so we cleaned that out. We got some colorful chairs and tables for in there, and that eventually is going to be like an outdoor classroom for them. So we have a lot of plans for that. So phase one is done. We did that last year, and that was basically cleaning up the grounds. We had a great response from some of the area nurseries around here who gave us plants. So we were able to put in a lot of plants. We did some foundation planting along the one side, and then we put in this butterfly garden there, which one of our members gave us the entire butterfly garden. She's thinking of selling her house, and she says it was going to be one of those things that wouldn't sell well, so she gave it to us, and we planted that over there. And it's amazing how much of that's coming back, because we were worried it wasn't perfect conditions to transplant it, but that's coming back. So now we're into phase two of that one, and we're trying to raise some money on that now.
Okay. Now the hands-on part, the digging in the ground, the planting, but what about the design? I mean, how do your projects get from, that's a good idea and we can really help them? Who does what?
Okay, well, luckily we have another member of our club who is a landscape architect. And she and her associates put together a very beautiful plan for it. Then we tweaked it and redid it, we tweaked it and we redid it until we thought it was doable, and that's what we're doing now. So we kind of have a master plan that we're working off of, which, like I said, one of our members who is Lynn Baralt, I think you know Lynn, and she did a master plan for us. And like I said, we've tweaked it a little bit, and I think we're at a spot where we can do it in phases now.
Okay. Is there any attempt in this particular project, but I guess going back to the York project too, the concepts of horticulture, the concepts of conservation, water, are those incorporated wherever they can be educationally?
Oh, yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely, yes. Because this is something, obviously the plans have to be sustained. So, I mean, it's a full circle. We put in all of the elements that are needed, and the students, participate, and they see that, again, if you put a plant in, you've got to water it. You've got to, take care of the weeds.
Well,
and all
you put
that
a cactus in, you don't water it quite as often.
Exactly.
That's right.
Exactly. So,
And some of it's trial and error, just like your own backyard. We put some mulch around some of these plants that we had done around the foundation. Then the first time it rained, the mulch floated away. So we realized we did have some water problems on that one. So, we're putting in plants that can take, some standing water. So, yeah, and like I said, some of it's trial and error, kind of like your own backyard.
and some of these things at York, when you get the students involved, they're talking about these things in some of their social studies classes and all of this. But when you actually see on a smaller scale how this, because not everybody, buddy's parents like to garden. We like to garden. Our kids, my kids, Penny's kids, they all like to garden because they've seen us in there. But that's not true of everybody. So when they see it and see the result of too much water, not enough water, running hoses or drainage systems and so forth, it becomes, again,
and
part
once
of the
again,
learning.
and you mentioned Lynn and the landscape, landscape architectural side of it. There's a real educational moment when you see architectural plans, which are every bit as detailed as a house plan or a major building project. They
Exactly.
just involve different things.
Right.
They involve plants and greenery and dirt and stone and even that's a learning experience that can provide lifelong lessons as you go forward and you get your own backyard or something and move forward accordingly. Now, have there been other garden clubs other than the York one that have sort of spun out of any of these projects? Or are there grade school level garden clubs that you're aware of? I'm just asking, I'm not expecting.
I don't know of the past couple of years. There have been in
In the
the
past.
recent past, yeah. There's a big Churchville garden. There's a prairie there.
Right, exactly.
And we did some years back help them with that. There's a few other butterfly gardens in the schools. There's a courtyard garden in Emerson or Edison. Emerson, I believe it is, that we
believe
gave
it
them
is,
some
yes.
assistance with that.
Well, I know, and I know the garden club was helpful to the Elmhurst History Museum with the Churchville
With the
Schoolhouse.
Churchville Schoolhouse,
And
yeah.
I know I'm told there's another wave of that coming forward, but
Okay.
the Churchville Schoolhouse, of course, with plants of the period of the 1860s, that period of time.
Yeah, one of the things we had to think about with those plants is that we had to figure out a way to cover the concrete pilings. Because when they rebuilt the structure of it, it has concrete in it, and so we tried to cover it up so that it didn't lose some of the integrity of the old building. Yeah.
Sure. As I said, so you both seek projects as well as have people reach out to you and say, gee, I've got this idea or I've heard about this. How do you decide which ones you're going to take on?
A lot of it is cost. A lot of it is how much it will help the community, because we are very much about the community and the things that we do. We want them to benefit the people of Elmhurst, the schools of Elmhurst, the organizations. So sometimes we have a lot.
Yep.
Sometimes we have to make judgments as to where we want to put our funds.
And sometimes it's woman power.
Yeah. It's
This year we were I think you have to say, we were really filled with projects.
We were filled with, yeah, this has been a really ambitious year. We really had a lot of projects going between our own projects and then all the ones we took on. It's been a busy year. And we also tend the herb garden in Wilder Park. So that's one more garden. And we've been doing that one for a long time. So we're partnered with the Park District on that one. And I think another determination is how much of our members get enthusiastic about it. You know, because if we don't have our members supporting it, there's no point.
Right, yes. If
taking
members
it on.
don't like the idea,
Right.
or don't think it's something where they
Right, or
they're
can't get behind
they're not
it.
gonna come. We need them. So
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Now, Mary, I know you're chair of the Garden Walk, and we're going to talk about the Garden Walk in the second segment of the program. But Penny, you mentioned conservation and maybe the ecology side of things. Can you share a little bit more about what you do in that regard?
Sure, conservation issues, anything from water issues, butterfly issues, monarchs especially have been very big. Bees lately, they've been in the news and they've been
Right.
in our minds too. We've had several programs with that in the past several years. People coming in, professionals speaking on these various different subjects. The Elmhurst Garden Club has been for some time, at least 10 years, actively involved in the monarch way stations. One of our members, Jane Folzer, was one of the first to bring that to our attention and really push it. Hers was one of the first monarch way stations in the state, and probably I'd say in the country.
Yeah.
And she pushed that forward. And we eagerly followed her and started planting milkweed and plants that butterflies were eager to be laying their eggs and spinning their cocoons. She brought another lady along with her, Pat Miller, who the two of them have become our butterfly ladies.
The butterfly ladies,
they've
right.
really-
Well, it's absolutely amazing to be in your backyard sometimes and go days without seeing a butterfly.
Yeah.
I mean, as a boy, I remember they seemed to be everywhere.
Everywhere,
Yeah.
right.
And now they
That's true.
seem to be nowhere.
Well, they're coming back though.
They are
we
coming
are
back.
seeing more, but that's because of the efforts.
A lot of effort, yeah.
A lot of efforts.
And there'll be more of a resurgence of those efforts this year with Monarch program.
And Garden Clubs of Illinois has a big program on that. They partnered with the highway department, and they're putting in butterfly plants in some of the plantings, you know, like in the medians along all of our highways. So you will see some of that in a couple of years. They'll be taken off.
Well, I know, and I know downstate, I've read about farmers who actually now keep beehives on their property to help their own,
Yeah.
their own propagation of various. Now, corn doesn't need it, but other crops do. So even that's kind of a reaction. So people are listening. They are thinking about such things.
Well, one of the things the Garden Club has done for me personally, I was not aware of how big the crisis was.
Yeah.
I mean, you hear it on the news and all of that, but as you know, the ladies have said, we've brought speakers in who have really kind of explained exactly the seriousness of losing all of this and how important it is. So, and again, our members also, they come and they listen, and all of a sudden they become aware in a way that they weren't before. So.
Well, we're going to go to a short break. We'll come back. We're going to talk about the Garden Walk coming up later this year, and some other programs going on with the Elmhurst Garden Club. This is Elmhurst Now, and we are talking about the Elmhurst Garden Club. It's spring after all. We'll be right back.
Have you visited the Elmhurst Public Library lately? The Kids Library is a wonderful place. When not being used for library programs and classes, Elmhurst Public Library cardholders can reserve the meeting rooms. The second floor is where you can find the adult and teen collections. An enclosed area, devoted to high school students, provides space to create, play, share, and study together. Use our computers, or bring your own, to our work-friendly business center. Technology classes for all expertise levels are taught in the computer lab. High-quality audio and visual equipment in the Creative Studio gives you the opportunity to create, record, make, and invent. You can produce real items with the 3D printer and poster printer. Study rooms provide space for studying on your own or working with others. The larger gathering room is available to reserve by Elmhurst Public Library card holders. Our convenient book drop and drive-up window make picking up and returning library materials a breeze. Don't forget, Elmhurst Public Library is always open online at elmhurstpubliclibrary.org.
Welcome back. This is Elmhurst Now. We're talking about the Elmhurst Garden Club, and we've been talking about the doing of it and projects and activities. And I'd like to just take a subtle nuance and talk about your scholarship program. And I have to tell you, there's a program running on Comcast right now about it. So you recently had some awards. So I'd like to know a little bit more about how long have you been doing it? How does one avail themselves of a scholarship, and what's the whole nature of the focus of the scholarship program?
Okay. We're going to turn that to Penny.
Penny, yes.
That initially, the club has always been interested in scholarship, but the Mildred Hartley Scholarship Fund, which is what you're airing right now, came out of the Garden Walk. As the Garden Walk grew and funds started to build up, it was determined that a good portion of the money and the proceeds from the Garden Walk would go to the Garden Walk Scholarship Fund. Mildred Hartney was a member of the Garden Club, and she was an individual that really advocated scholarship for those going into areas of horticulture, landscape design, science-related areas that would fit within our mission statement. The fund itself has grown very nicely over the years. We've given out more than $100,000 in scholarships, which I always say isn't bad for a group of about 100 women on one day in the summer. And more, of course, goes into it than that. There's sponsorships and
Your
that sort
point
of
is well
thing.
taken.
But 100 women do it. You are seeing this year's scholarship winners. There were 7 of them. They are all Illinois residents, but they're attending schools, the University of Wisconsin, Miami of Ohio, the College of DuPage. We've been giving scholarships to students there. Very often they're returning to classes after being home or changing careers or whatever. And as was mentioned before, Lisa Peterson was one of our scholarship recipients, and it was really exciting to see it take this whole story.
Now, how are the scholarships selected? Is it an application process? Is it obviously you need to be made aware of people who are interested in it?
It is an application process. The application can be found online at elmhurstgardenclub.org. There's a scholarship link, and by the time this airs, the scholarship application process will be closed, but it is May 1st every year. And we're looking at students from Illinois who reside in Illinois and that are going into all these scientific fields. We've had some really exciting
Very interesting
recipients,
topics,
and
yeah.
you're seeing them right now,
Yes.
right here, coming right out of here. They have to have a certain grade point average, well above a B. Credentials have to come to the scholarship chair. There is a scholarship committee that meets and selects
review.
from the
Yeah.
applicants.
Yeah.
Are they renewable during
Yes.
the course of the student's career?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and some of our students have received scholarships, and then they go on to a master's program, and they've been able to
reapply for that.
Yeah, reapply,
Okay.
and we're happy to help as many as we can. We've the scholarships this year ranged from $1,000 to $2,500.
And how many years have you been giving scholarships, more or less?
At least 18.
Yeah, that's what
Okay.
I think. Yeah.
Okay, so it's
We started that almost from the beginning.
yeah, but it's once again it's an evolution of an organization that has 90 years of history. And as I mentioned in the first half, we're coming up on some milestones. I mean, York High School will be 100 years old in 1918. The Memorial Day Parade will be 100 years old in 2018 rather. So there's some significant century old, and you're right there. You're right there, pushing on the forefront. Now, as a community organization with history, the whole notion of having community be aware of what you're doing, why you're doing it, the opportunity for the community rather to participate. And as I said, we keep talking about the garden walk, and we will talk about that.
I'm waiting.
But how has the Elmhurst Garden Club over the years have had to adapt in order to have the community be aware of what you're doing, why you're doing it, and how they can help you do it? Communications, as well as your regular meetings. How do you get the word out about the good work that you're doing?
The media, newspapers,
Our members.
Cable. Our members are the
excellent,
biggest, yeah.
people who they commandeer their friends, and we just had a beautiful luncheon, our yearly luncheon,
Yeah.
and many guests come, and this is the
We get
plan.
members out of that.
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
very much so, because they come, they see what a great group we are, and what fun we have, and that way they come and they see, and a lot of people join us because we do meet during the day after they've retired or are not working quite as often, but it's again, it's the community and some of the things that we do, the Ray Graham, the York High School kinds of things.
Well, and it's affordable. I mean, the dues I know are very reasonable.
Right. And you talk about having a history. When Garden Club first started, you had to be invited to belong. It wasn't until about 1990-ish, around in there, that they changed that and just made it an open club. So yeah, things have changed, and then people bring their friend to a meeting or two, and then all of a sudden that friend joins. So it's a lot of our members that really.
And what happens
Well,
at
we love-
meetings?
There's a lot of meetings.
I mean, if it's not a secret, what happens at meetings?
We have wonderful programs.
We do.
Yes.
Okay, so they usually start around 11. Well, they start at 11.
Okay.
And we have a social hour, which is a half hour really, 11 to 11:30 or so. And then we have lunch. So we have every month has a committee of about, almost 10 ladies around that, 10 or so ladies. And they get together each month and they have a little lunch that they provide. So we have lunch. And then we have our little business meeting. And then we have a program, which we usually have a speaker. So you can get out of there by 2:30. So it's 11 to 2:30. It's a good portion of a day. Yeah.
And many of our members look forward to that,
Yeah.
to that social time, especially, in the colder months.
Sure.
And it's, again, we do a lot of socializing.
Yeah.
A lot of good friendships have come from it.
That's right.
And plus we do a lot, for the community, and in a field that's our common bond. We all love the flowers and the dirt and the how things get to grow and how to make them better.
So I've heard about membership dues, relatively nominal. I've heard about applying for grants. I've heard about luncheons. I've heard about other things. What are the other ways in which you raise the funds to do all the projects that you've been doing? And one of those would be the garden walk. Is that the principal one?
Well, our funds are divided two ways. We have our club funds that we use for, our club activities, and that is pretty much through dues and our Ways and Means Committee, which is very active. And then we have the garden walk, but all the money we make from garden walk, that's charitable. We give that away. So that
Okay.
doesn't support our club. So our club is
Is that the scholarship, partly
Yes,
the scholarship money?
Yeah, and then like we give some in the past we give some money to the college for their arboretum because
Okay.
that's within our
Sure.
mission. We have a few other places that like the Fisher one with Schoolhouse. That came out of our garden walk funds too.
The Katrina Fund.
The Katrina
Okay.
Fund.
And the Washington, Illinois after the tornado.
Yeah.
We contributed to that also.
Yes, so those are some of the other things. But our actual club activities come out of dues and our Ways and Means. And our Ways and Means have a couple of fundraisers, and they're mostly within our club. But we have like a white elephant sale. We have plant sales for our
So you have
members.
to have plans.
You gotta have plants.
And that's right. We have to have plant sales.
And it's members'
In
plants.
fact, most of my yard is plant sale plants. Yeah, and then they put together baskets, and we have raffles. At two of our luncheons, and they sub.
Okay.
That
Yeah.
subsidizes the
They
program.
subsidize the program. That's the word.
Speakers.
Yeah, yeah.
So the time has come. Let's talk about it.
Okay. Yes. Well, yeah. Okay. Now.
Oh,
How long has the garden walk been going on in Elmhurst?
It was established in 1995 by one of our members, Karen Exner. And I'm kind of new to the club. Georgia and Penny have been around a little bit longer. Penny has been chair of the garden walks several times, and it is a wonderful.
Actually, I haven't.
Well, you haven't. Okay,
just done
that's
about
the one
everything
job
else.
you haven't had.
Every job.
Okay,
Every
all
other
right. It's the
job,
one
though.
job you haven't had. Okay, you've been president. Okay, and but the garden walk features 7 homes within Elmhurst.
Okay.
And they can be members' homes, or they can just be people who live in Elmhurst. We do have a committee that goes around every spring, summer, and starts hunting for the houses that they're going to be planning for the following year, or even 2 years down the road. Some people need a little extra time to prepare.
So you select the places.
Yes, the committee. It is a committee, and they
Sure.
select the homes. A lot of times we get recommendations from other, from neighbors or friends and everything.
Yeah, you should go see Mary's house.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And then convince Mary that she really needs to be on the garden walk, which is a little bit harder than just picking out and looking at it. But 7 homes are featured. They are throughout Elmhurst. I was telling the girls earlier today that somebody last year wrote on the email through our website, can I take my bicycle and ride around? And we're like, not unless you're a real good biker, because they really do stretch from one end of town.
So
to-
they are spread. They're not linked up.
Oh,
in
no,
any way.
no,
They're
all the
they're-
way-
wherever
all over
whoever
the map.
gets selected.
Exactly,
That's
all the
walk.
way from Butterfield Road all the
Sure,
way down,
okay.
to
Yeah.
Grand.
All right.
We have, we have houses selectively, and we try to place them kind of so there's enough, so there's some all around, but it doesn't always happen. But they're beautiful gardens, and last year we had one of our gardens was a gentleman. The husband was totally
was
in
the
charge.
gardener,
When I went to view the garden, I was talking to the wife, and she's like, no, wrong person, not me. And
So older homes, newer homes.
everything.
Everything.
Okay.
Yeah, everything.
We prefer homes that have not been professionally landscaped. We're looking for the homeowners, the work that not that we won't take those, but
Sure. No, I understand.
we're looking for homes that our members and the people who come to the walk can really duplicate themselves, and to see the work that can be done with small spaces, with large spaces. We have pretty much a variety of everything on them. And on the day of the walk, which is July 10th, it is a Sunday. It is always the second Sunday in July. I hate to say this, but we've always had very good weather. Okay.
We've had hot
July
days.
10th.
Yes, and we want the
Okay.
weather
July
god
10th.
to continue to do
Right.
that.
Haven't been rained out.
Yes, really.
Yeah.
And along with that, we do have a fair in Wilder Park. Thanks to our cooperation with the Elmhurst Park District, who have been marvelous in supporting us. We have vendors set up in Wilder Park. And our tickets, our booklets are picked up there. You can pick up tickets. There's 5 different businesses in town that you can see on our website, the elmhurstgardenclub.org. And you can buy them up until Saturday before the walk at 3 o'clock. And you get a discount if you buy them by
Early.
3 o'clock, yes. If you don't, you can buy the tickets Sunday at Wilder Park, and they're a little bit more because you waited so long. So, and then that's when you get the booklet and see where all the homes are. We don't release the names of them until then. And then the booklet has our sponsors in there and all the people who support us, and all the vendors that will be in Wilder Park. Plus, we do have, there is food available, a few snacks in Wilder Park. That's, the Park District takes care of having a few supplies there so that people can purchase them.
How much time do I have to go from number 1 to number 7?
We open at 10 o'clock in the morning, and you get until 3 o'clock to go through the homes.
Okay.
The park is open until 4. And again, you will need a car, and in your booklet, you're going to get a map, and you can kind of plot your course. And we do have members at every home hostessing, and some of the yards are very large, and we kind of guide you, the right way to come in and out and everything. And the fun part is meeting the homeowners, and we encourage the homeowners to be there. And they are just a wealth of knowledge. They talk about what they did, and people have all kinds of questions. We even suggest to some of the homeowners that you take those little signs and label them. Otherwise, you're going to be walking around all day pointing
What's
them
that
out.
flower? What's that flower?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and the homeowners love that. I myself have been on the garden walk. You've been on the garden walk. Okay, it's very fulfilling to have people get excited about.
It's a great experience, and all of a sudden you've put all this work, sometimes for 2 years, into a garden, and to see it through 600-700 other sets of eyes.
Yes.
is
Well,
an interesting
and those
experience.
600-700 other eyes are also picking up ideas that they
Exactly.
take back to their
That's
own
right.
gardens
That's
or
right.
somewhere.
And some of the composting things that people have had in their yards, people have, again, they want to talk to the homeowners how that works. Some of the rain barrels that people have had on there. Again, it's a way to share your knowledge and to share the things that you've done to propagate your yard. And again, everybody has a wonderful time at it.
Now, how many folks at a very successful
But
garden walk?
actually, they've all been very successful. We have never had a non-successful garden walk. It is something that people do look forward to and kind of mark their calendars. We get somewhere between 600 and 700 people going to the homes.
Okay.
And then we will get additional people who just come to the fair in the park. So we probably will see about 1,000 people on that day. And purchasing things, looking at the garden-related things. We sell plants in there also. So we have committees that are right now, as we speak, going out and planning all of
Putting
this
it
and getting
together.
everything all ready.
July 10.
Yes.
All right. And when can people expect, we're about at the end of our time, when can people expect to start to see that publicity that you talked about regarding the garden walk?
We are starting that now, okay?
Now, okay.
Again, first of all, you can go to our website, elmhurstgardenclub.org.
Okay.
We have a Facebook page. You talked about changing times.
Yeah.
Our publicity people are right on top with the Facebook, with the Twitters or whatever
Yeah.
we've got, and all the publications, the Chicago Tribune, any of the major papers, they would list the garden walks. Ours will be in there also.
Terrific.
Yeah.
And
Excellent.
probably about mid-May, you'll start seeing posters around.
Okay. Well, our time is up. I thank all three of you for being here on Elmhurst Now. I look forward to the garden walk on the 10th of July. And good luck in all your endeavors.
Thanks.
Obviously, you make a pretty town that much prettier.
Thanks.
Thank you.
This has been Elmhurst Now. Thank you for watching. I'm Ken Bartels, and we'll see you again.
Have you heard of the Elmhurst Heritage Foundation? Its purpose is to provide support through advocacy, education, and fundraising for the Elmhurst History Museum, our local Elmhurst history, and the Churchville one-room schoolhouse. Established in 2007 as a nonprofit organization, we initiated an endowment fund and raised funds to complete the renovation of the historic Churchville schoolhouse. We conducted a capital campaign to develop the new exhibit, by all accounts, the story of Elmhurst, at the History Museum, and we continue to provide financial support to enhance exhibits, programs, and events at the museum. Yes, we feel strongly about our mission and encourage you to become a member or donor of the Elmhurst Heritage Foundation. Please call or go to our website for more information to learn about the benefits of becoming a member or donor by investing in our town, our history, our heritage.
We live in some of the best communities in Illinois. We care about our neighbors. We work hard to preserve our quality of life. But there's something we forget about in Elmhurst. A river runs through it, and it's up to us to protect it. Our storm drains flow to Salt Creek, and that means our harmful waste does too. So try using fewer chemicals on your lawn. Avoid leaking fluids from cars. And grow native flowers and plants to absorb more rainwater. Don't muddy the waters. Do your part to clean up Salt Creek.